Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, September 21st at 1:45 in the afternoon. My name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session, practice session on scanning, SQANNING. Scanning is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and ultimately mental calm. And that's why we're here. It's been about a week since I did a session. For various reasons, working on other stuff, but glad to be back and to share with you my experiences with this technique and see if it's of value to you. There's a lot of self-help stuff going on out there in the world, and I think it's wonderful. I think people have an instinct, an impulse to try to help others, maybe share some of the knowledge they've gained as far as how they've helped themselves, how they brought themselves into a more enlightened, centered, stable, happy place. I think it's great. We're all so different from each other. We're all humans, and yet we all have such specific quirks about our personalities and our histories and so forth that it's very difficult to assume that any technique that would work for me would work for you or anyone else. But there's always that chance. You never know what you're going to pick up out there when you talk to people in the world that might be of value to you. So I'm going to share my technique with you again, as I do. This is a technique I practice fairly religiously. I practice it at least 1, maybe 2 hours a day on my own, and then I have been coming here to do a public session at least once a day, taking a break from that for a while, but I'm back. So I'll just break it down again for those of you who may not have heard of scanning. It's based on the ideas of a man named Thaddeus Golas, Golas. He wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, which I've read 1,000,000 times. I'm not kidding. I've read it so many times. I love it. And he basically broke down the universe into 2 basic forces: contraction, squeeze your hands together, and expansion, release. Everything, he said, can ultimately be explained, defined, described, understood by understanding those 2 basic processes of the universe. Everything, anything you look at, anything you experience, anything you wear, see, ingest, talk about, do, whatever's going on in the world around you, is either in a state of contraction, squeeze your hands together, or expansion, or somewhere between the 2. And in life, we will move between a state of contraction over here and expansion over here. We vacillate all day long. And I took that teaching and I sort of transferred it into my own life to see how I could apply it to my own life to help myself when I was in difficult circumstances and I needed to feel better generally, just to feel better. I mean, I always talk about, when it comes down to it, when you're contracted, you're overly contracted, you feel bad. When you expand, you feel better. I wanted to feel better. So I began to explore ways of how I could bring that circumstance, that sense of expansion into my life. And I discovered that indeed, when I was unhappy, I tended to be contracted, and when I was expanded, I tended to feel better. So I thought, how can I bring that into my life? It's nothing that can necessarily be described in words. It's not a theory. It's not a religion. It's not a philosophy. It's a physical practice. How could I bring myself into an expanded state at those times when I felt bad? And that's all this is. All I do with scanning is practice expansion. All I do is try to move myself from what I feel is a contracted state, squeeze your hands together, into a more expanded state. And I find that when I become more expanded, I feel better, I feel happier. Now these days there's plenty to be stressed about. And we're all kind of walking around in a contracted state, because what is contraction? Contraction is an effort, it's an action, it's a formation, it's a bringing together of ideas, thoughts, words, physical activity to advance a goal. And we're all working very hard to understand the world right now. We're all trying to figure out, how do we make it a safer place? How do we fix things? How do we change things so that they move in a direction that feels better to me? We're all working very hard. We're thinking, we're working, we're arguing, we're debating, we're posting, we're tweeting. So we're all very contracted. So that tends to make us tense. I get tense. I can't tell you how many times I've sworn I wouldn't watch the news again for a week, and then I'm drawn back into it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work on expansion. How do I bring myself out of a contracted state and into an expanded state? That's it. That's all we're going to do. And the way we do it is simple. This is a physical technique. I'm not going to give you a mantra. I'm not going to give you a description of some sort of philosophy to tell you how to expand. I'm going to ask you to physically expand. To physically expand. How do we do that? Through the musculature. We're going to work strictly with the muscles. And this is why I keep telling you to squeeze your hands. Squeeze your hands together. And on my count, I want you to release. This is contraction. 3, 2, 1, release. That's expansion. So we're going to take the time today to move ourselves incrementally in small amounts from a state of contraction to expansion. And we do that through incremental muscular release. That's it. We just did it. 3, 2, 1, release. You just released muscular tension. Now the theory basically is this. As you begin to relax the muscles in your body, and that's all we're going to do, that's all we're going to focus on, is incrementally releasing the muscular tension in our body. It induces a state of expansion into your very physical being, which in turn translates into an expansion of your emotions and your mind. I can't honestly say I understand how it works or why it works. I just know it does work. I've practiced it for years. It's never let me down. No matter what I'm thinking, no matter what I'm worried about, no matter what issues I'm having trouble dealing with in my day, if I can induce a deep state of physical relaxation, in other words, expansion, if I can bring myself physically into a more expanded state, it will translate into my very being, and my mind will expand, and it will let go of all these obsessive and negative thoughts and worries, and I find myself in a calmer place from which I can make better decisions and more effectively deal with my life. So that's all we're going to do. Concentrate on physical relaxation. So let's start with what I said. On a basic level, we're just letting go of muscular tension. So squeeze your hands together tight as you can, and just see what that feels like. That's contraction. And you'll see for yourself as you begin to explore this technique what contraction means to you. How do you see things in life in a contracted way versus an expanded way? And I'm not going to say anything more than that. Just begin to think in those terms, that dichotomy of contraction, expansion, and you'll begin to understand as you go through your day, this is a contracted moment, this is a more expanded moment. So squeeze your hands together tight, tight, tight. Now, it's a little difficult to hold on to that, but just do it. That's what we do in life. We hold on. We hold on. We make an effort. We put together words, ideas, thoughts, physical actions, and we hold on to those things. We make an effort. It can be exhausting. It can be exhilarating. But it's just one of the two things we do in life. We spend a lot of time contracting. A lot. Most of our day. Sometimes our nights. Dreams are a contraction. But we can change that. And how do we do that? Simply a decision. You have within you, and this is important to know, you always have within you the power to expand. No matter what's going on, you can always expand. So let's do it. 3, 2, 1, release. You just did it. You made a conscious decision to let go of muscular tension and brought yourself, even if it was in a very small way, into a more expanded state. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. 3, 2, 1, expand. See? You have the power to do that. Now you say, well, how does that apply to my life? I mean, I can't just go around squeezing and releasing my hands all day. Practice and you'll see. So let's do it one more time. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. Tight as you can. See what contraction feels like. On my count, 3, 2, 1, release. Drop your hands to your side. Now you're going to take 3 deep breaths. Breaths are by nature expansive. So what we're doing is we're moving our very being into a more expanded state. So take 3 deep breaths. I'll do it with you. Now sit for 15 seconds in absolute stillness and silence. Take a deep breath. So we just did what I call the preliminary steps in scanning. The secondary phase will be actual muscular release, but this is the preliminary phase. I call it the preliminary because we tend to walk around in a fairly contracted state. And sometimes it's very difficult to let go of that. We're resistant. When we're in a contracted state, we found what we think is a safe place, and we don't want to let go. We're hanging on to a lifesaver, and we don't want to let go because we've convinced ourselves it's the way to go. So sometimes you have to jolt yourself out of your contracted state, and we do that 3 ways. First, we remind ourselves that we are in a contracted state. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1, release. Feel that difference. Then we take 3 deep breaths. Breaths are expansive. It's a way of pulling yourself out of your contracted cave. Here we go. And that can be difficult. That can be disturbing. It can be disorienting. You may get dizzy. You've held this contracted state for so long that to pull yourself out of it like that can be very disorienting. Transitioning from contraction to expansion can be uncomfortable. We're changing positions. We're moving from a position of safety. There can be resistance to that change. So don't be surprised if you go, this doesn't feel good. That's okay. Then we're going to sit for 15 seconds in absolute stillness and silence. Now think about how often during the day you sit in absolute stillness. And when I say absolute stillness, I mean don't move a muscle. Watch. So how often do we do that? Rarely. Even when we're lying in bed, we're kind of moving around. Even when we're sitting in a chair, we're turning around, we're listening, we're thinking things, we're scratching ourselves. We rarely sit in absolute stillness. So when you sit in absolute stillness, you're sending a signal to your very being, you're saying something is changing. Stop what you're doing and focus. It takes a bit of concentration. And again, just like the deep breaths, it can feel a little strange. Why am I doing nothing? It's a shock to the system. But that's what we need to do. We're shocking ourselves out of our state of contraction. You're stopping whatever you're doing. Nothing. Don't do anything. We add to that 15 seconds of silence because the same reason. Words and thoughts are active. They are contractions, bringing together of words and thoughts. We think all day. We obsess all day. These are contractions. So we sit in silence, and your thoughts may still spin, but you make a conscious decision to not think, and you'll have a degree of success or not, but just try. 15 seconds of absolute stillness and silence sends a clear message to your very being. Stop contracting, stop taking action, stop everything you're doing. We're about to change things. Try with me now. 15 seconds of absolute stillness and silence, and continue to breathe. Deep breath. And these techniques are based on common sense. If you had a friend who came to you hysterical, upset about something, couldn't even get their thoughts together, maybe crying, just yapping away about what was going on, you may have in the past said to them, Joe, sit down, stop thinking, stop talking, just sit still for a second, gather yourself. And it's a way of disconnecting yourself from the obsessive thoughts, the obsessive activity, which you've come to think of as a solution. We immediately go to activity and thought to solve problems. What do I do? What do I do? What do I say? What do I think? What do I tweet? What do I post? What should I do? But we forget of equal value is to not do. When you create a space of nothingness, answers have room to come in. So that's all we're doing. So I'm going to repeat these three what I call preliminary steps. These are all designed to bring us out of a state of contraction and into a state of expansion. Once you've made that initial move, it's sort of like a car. You're going in one direction. You can't turn around and go the other way until you've stopped, then turn the car around. Now you could say you can make a long curve, that's fine too. But you have to stop going this way before you can go that way. And the amazing thing about this process is you cannot contract and expand at the same time. So once you begin to expand, you have stopped contracting. But sometimes it can take, like I said, a bit of a jolt to stop obsessive compulsive thought and action. We tend to be very compulsive these days. We can't stop thinking. We can't stop acting. So we have to shock the system. So let's do these three preliminary steps again, the ones I just told you. And then we're going to move into the specific muscle work, which is the nuts and bolts, I call it, or the technique, where we literally begin to incrementally release the muscular tension throughout our entire body. Let's do this again, though. Squeeze your hands together. This is the way we start. I am in a contracted state, we say. Feel what that feels like to be contracted. Contraction is strength. Contraction is action. Contraction is what allows someone to pole vault. It's good. We're contractive beings. We have muscles. We may use them, for things of great value. That's okay. The only time we run into trouble is when we become overly contracted. Then we lose our effectiveness. We become muddled. Our thoughts become clouded. We become obsessive. We feel tense physically, emotionally, mentally confused, over-contracted. That's when it's really valuable to expand. So here we go. You make a decision. You have the power. 3, 2, 1, release. Feel the difference. Take 5 deep breaths. As deep as you can. Last one. 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. Deep breath. Now, I always have the same experience, and I share this with you because maybe you feel the same. You'll have your own experience with this, and you'll register that and make a note of it. But it's important to notice what happens to you as you shift from a contracted state to an expanded state. I always have the exact same experience. I'm suddenly aware after these preliminary steps, and this isn't even the full technique, this is just the preliminary steps. I'm suddenly aware that I've detached from my sense of compulsion. If I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off all day, thinking about things, doing things, thinking I should call people, writing, posting, tweeting, arguing, just physically agitated, not sure what to do next, if I've been in a contracted state, when I move into this expanded state, the first thing I notice is I've detached from that compulsive sensation, and I suddenly feel comfortable doing nothing. That component of my life, which I'd forgotten had value, stillness, nothingness, has suddenly been reintroduced to my life. And I remember how wonderful it is to sit and do and think nothing. So these preliminary steps are a way of bringing you back to that awareness. We get so caught up in our contractions, in our thoughts, in our actions, we completely forget that there's a whole other side to the coin. And that is the opposite, and that is stillness and silence. And you go, oh, it's okay to just be. I'd forgotten that was an option. You know, we live in an information age. At the snap of our fingers, we can get any information in the world we want. We can learn about anything we want. And this has had an incredible appeal. I can go on the internet and learn anything. I can do anything. I can participate in any activity. It seems almost as though it's the solution to life. And yet, what that tends to do is cloud the truth that the opposite is of equal value. No information, nothingness, stillness, silence. A blank slate can be a beautiful thing. So that's what happens to me. As much as I've done this, I tend to forget the beauty, the power of stillness and silence. And this brings me back to that. And I suddenly go, oh, this can be a choice in my day as well. This can be part of my day as well. And you know what? It feels great. So that's the preliminary steps. So you can always start with that. I would say if you have no time, if you have very little time and you can't do the full technique, which can take anywhere from a half an hour to an hour, depending on how much you want to put in, do the minimum. Just remind yourself, start, I'm contracted, relax, expand. That's number 1. 2, take deep breaths. If you're in a place where you feel comfortable taking lots of deep breaths without making people think you're hyperventilating, take deep breaths and follow that with absolute stillness and silence. And cycle through that. Do them again and again. Just those 3 preliminary steps will bring you a long way towards expansion. They will move you a long way towards expansion. And again, if you feel weird, if you feel disoriented, that's natural, that's normal. We tend to take a position when we're contracted. We don't want to move. We get locked in. We all know what that's like. And no one in the world can bring you out of it but you. Even if we know it's not helpful, even if we know it's destructive, we get locked in. It feels safe. We tend to operate based on fear a lot in life. We have a safe position even if we rationally know it's bad for us. We don't want to let go. So if you extract yourself, if you open yourself up, you make yourself vulnerable, you breathe, you sit in stillness and silence, it can be disorienting, a little disturbing, maybe even frightening. But once you're out, baby. Once you're in the clear, once you're expanded, there's no going back, and you're going to love it. So that's phase 1. Phase 2, incremental release of muscular tension. So the extension of this technique is to now work on the specific muscle groups of the body. We carry a small amount of low voltage tension in our body all day long, whether we're aware of it or not. We could be sitting in a chair. We could be sitting in a chair, we could be lying in bed, and you'll kind of have a certain amount of tension, habitual tension that you've just built into your daily being, that you feel you need to hold on to in order to feel safe, in order to feel good. You don't need to hold on to that tension. You can let go of so much tension in your body and still be just fine. But we have a habit of contracting muscularly. So we're learning to break that habit, and that's why we practice this technique. So we break the body into zones. And I like to start with what I call zone 1, the face, because it's familiar. We know how to squeeze our face and let it go. We use our face for expression all the time. So we're familiar with how to let go of tension in the face, just as we're familiar with letting go of tension in the hand. 3, 2, 1, release. Now do the face. 3, 2, 1. Release. And now you saw it, let it just sag. A lot of this technique can be summed up in 2 words. Let go. Let go. So we're letting go of muscular tension. So if my face was pulled up with strings, 3, 2, 1, let go. See how much tension I had in my face that I could let go of? I don't need that tension. And I want you to register what that feels like. when you release that tension, that little moment when you turn off the power to your muscles and they let go. That's what we're learning to do. You're going to get so good at this that you'll be able to turn off the power to any muscle in your body. You'll be able to relax your back. A lot of people have back problems. Your neck, your shoulders, your feet, your pelvis, through practice. You have to practice, and that's why we do this. So the face, zone 1, 3, 2, 1, release, and feel it drop. And I'll move quickly through these, and you can go back and practice them on your own. But take the time to feel that sensation of release. That's what we're looking for. That moment of, turn the power off. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. You'll feel a slight spreading sensation as the muscles let go. Search for that feeling. Study that feeling. Become familiar with that feeling. It's like learning a new song. At first, you won't know the lyrics or the melody, but as you practice and become more familiar with it, pretty soon you'll be singing it just like you'd sing Happy Birthday. You'll know it through practice. Zone 3 is the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. And you should start becoming aware that almost like what I start to say is, oh wow, I wasn't even aware I was holding that area. You'll begin to, as you go through the body, go, I didn't even know I was holding. And then I just let go of like 10% of the muscular tension in that area I didn't even know I had. And this will pass through your body, and your body will start to get the message, and it'll just start to let go on its own when it realizes it's safe. The neck, zone 4, 3, 2, 1, release. Look for that dropping, releasing sensation, that letting go. Zone 5 is the shoulders, 3, 2, 1, let them drop, release. And if you slouch in your chair, that's fine. You're letting go. Whatever expectation you had, whatever obligation you put on yourself, I need to be like this, I need to do that, I need to hold this, just let all that go. Let all that expectation and obligation go. You don't need to hold on to that tension right now. You just don't need it. You're just sitting in a chair. You can let go. The shoulders, let them drop. 3, 2, 1, release. And I have to laugh at myself because I practice this all the time, and I don't even know how much tension I have in my body. I'm finding tension right now. I didn't know I was holding my shoulders up here. I just let them go. I had no idea. This entire first 20 minutes of this session that had been right here, I could have let them go. I had no idea. You have to concentrate. Put your focus on the incremental release of muscular tension. And I say incremental because even the smallest change is of great value. If my fist is this, I go 3, 2, 1 to this. That's great. It doesn't have to be to this. What's important is that you notice the change. You experience what that change feels like. You reinforce it so you can do it again. And you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And one day, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, you will achieve such a deep state of relaxation that you will laugh at yourself for having held so much unnecessary tension. And again, the long-range benefit is, as you release muscular tension, I like to think of the mind as a muscle, holding on to obsessive thoughts and ideas. The mind will follow suit. It will relax, and you will let your obsessive thoughts and worries and concerns and anxieties just float away, and you will be at peace. You'll come to a place of complete silence and stillness where you experience no obligation, no compulsions, no anxiety, no worry. You will just be. And you will feel incredibly comforted by that because you will have let go of all the expectations that you'd put on yourself. And you will begin to understand on a physical level that to just be is enough. In fact, it's everything. It's your core. It's who you are. You're not defined by your work or your money or your social network. You just exist. And it's enough. And it's beautiful. And you will feel good. That's the place we're trying to get to. Sometimes I get there, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll go a week, and then all of a sudden one day I'll get there and I'll go, oh, all that stuff that I thought defined me is not me. This is me. And I'll feel happy. Zone 6 is the chest, the stomach down into the waist. 3, 2, 1, release. And again, if you don't feel this right away, that's okay. We're looking for a very subtle, small change. If this is the first time you've tried it, you may feel nothing. But as you practice, you'll begin to feel it. And always, if you're finding yourself frustrated, because I don't feel a change, go for a muscle that you can really see the difference. Like I said, the fist. 3, 2, 1, release. See that sensation? Then again, the face is very familiar. Crunch it up. 3, 2, 1, release. That's the sensation. So remind yourself what release feels like. Then go back to that muscle group that's not as familiar or easy to work with. Zone 6, again, the chest, the stomach into the waist. 3, 2, 1, release. And if you begin to feel almost like a blanket coming over you, as this sensation of release and relaxation begins to take over your body, if your body gets ahead of you and starts to just let go, let it go. These are all techniques. I like to call them, this is a finger pointing at the moon. If you say, where's the moon? And I point to the moon, you say, oh, there it is. I can put my hand down. You don't need to keep pointing at the moon once you see it. So if you begin to get this release sensation, it begins to come over you, you can just enjoy it. These are just techniques to help get you there. These are pointers. Zone 7 is down the back and into the pelvis. And we hold a lot of tension in our pelvis. So just try to imagine letting go. Letting go of the slightest amount, 1%. 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep breath. And you begin to understand how as you detach yourself from your physical tension, your mind begins to release these obsessive thoughts and anxieties, and you're no longer thinking about them, and you find yourself in a very neutral, still, quiet, peaceful place. And that's where we want to go. Zone 8 is down the legs, over the knees, and into the feet. The feet. Try to relax the muscles of your feet. 1%. 3, 2, 1. Release. And again, if you don't feel anything, if you don't feel a major change, that's fine. But just start focusing on that area and see if you can move the dial. 1%. The feet. 3, 2, 1. Release. So we're doing things which you may not do very often. We're sitting in complete stillness and silence. We're taking big, deep breaths. We're concentrating on incrementally releasing muscular tension. These are all things that, I'm not so good at this. I don't get it. That's fine. That's why we practice. But it serves as a reminder how little of our day we devote to giving ourselves a break, to letting go of our muscular tension, to letting go of our obsessive thoughts and ideas and feelings. Look how little time we spend doing a very valuable act. If the universe is made up of two processes, contraction and expansion, and we're spending 99% of our time contracting, you'll get out of balance. And when I tell you that they are of equal value, we need to put some more time into expanding. You'll feel a lot of resistance. Again, contraction is a safe position. It feels secure. Even if it hurts you or tires you out, that's okay. You will also feel sometimes like expanding is a waste of time. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. How can I afford to take the time to expand when I need to be contracting? Well, maybe if you expand a little bit, you bring some balance into your life, and you open yourself up, you make yourself accessible, open, more neutral, more available, less obsessed, less anxious, maybe your contractions will be more effective. And I always say when I start the session out, when I'm squeezing my hands together, my hands always hurt a little bit. But by the end of the session, when I squeeze my hands together, my muscles are working much more effectively, and it feels good. It feels like I'm massaging myself. So maybe you're more effective when you've introduced expansion into your life. Maybe you just do everything better. So explore that. So we've been going about a half an hour, and I like to call it quits after a half an hour usually. We've covered the basic preliminary steps: squeeze, release, deep breath, stillness, silence. And we worked our way through the body, incrementally releasing the muscular tension in the different areas of the body. So this is all you need to do to practice. It's a very simple technique. Bottom line, when I'm lying in bed at night and I'm having a terrible dream or incredibly tense anxiety about something that's been going on or is going to be going on, bottom line, I can't think myself out of that mess. It just never works. Thinking to try to cure a thinking problem is self-defeating, but I can incrementally release the muscular tension in my body. So when you find yourself in a panic state, sit down, take some deep breaths, sit in stillness and silence, and then concentrate on one or more muscle groups, just incrementally releasing the muscular tension. Now you say, well, that has nothing to do with who's going to be the next Supreme Court Justice. How's that helping that? Exactly. You've stepped away from contraction, from figuring things out, from thinking, from being physically active. You've gone in the completely opposite direction. You're strictly dealing with the physical aspect of your body, and you're inducing a physical expansion. It may seem unrelated, but you will be amazed how when you come back to that worry, how much more effectively you can deal with it, how much more calmly you can deal with it. So take the risk. When you're in trouble, take a moment to expand. Physical expansion, muscular release. Stay with it as long as you can. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. I've done sessions that went as long as an hour. It's up to you. Just try to expand a little bit and see where it takes you. And that's it for today. Thank you for visiting. It's called Scanning, SQANNING, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. That's all we're doing here. It's very, very simple. So I will repost this session. If anyone came in late and wants to see the whole session, I'll repost it on my Facebook page. It'll be up for 24 hours. I post all my sessions also on the Scanning Facebook page, SQANNING. Like and follow that page if you want alerts when there's new sessions. And I also post these on my YouTube channel, Scanning, SQANNING. It's scanning because we're scanning the body for pockets of tension. We're searching through our body. We're taking a moment to concentrate and focus on finding pockets of muscular tension and then releasing. I spell it with a Q just to, just to be cute. And that's it. Thanks for coming. I always end every session with rule number 1 in life. Love yourself. Love is the most expansive action available to us in the universe. Love is expansion. Start by loving yourself. Love is free. There's an infinite amount available. Take as much as you need and give it to yourself all day long. When you've given yourself so much love that you really feel it and it's overflowing, you have extra, take the extra and pass it around, give it to the rest of us or whoever you happen to be dealing with that day, because we could all use it. That's all. Have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.